let's make a start with The Green Knight. And Drew, what is that all about?
Well, first of all, Scott, I've come to the realisation I should look after myself better. I really should. Eat better, take more exercise, watch fewer terrible films. Now, this last is more difficult to do than the former, because, of course, it's not always possible to know a film is terrible until afterwards. But sometimes there are clues. And in this case, I should really have paid more attention to the writer and director, because The Green Knight was written and directed by David Lowery, the man responsible for the execrable A Ghost Story from 2017. Now, one shouldn't judge a book by its cover, and I'm willing to give filmmakers second chances. I'm looking at you, Ari Aster. However, my life is finite, but there are, functionally, infinite films, and sometimes you should probably take those shortcuts. And, alas, like A Ghost Story before it, I feel, given the praise which has been heaped upon it, I either saw a different film called The Green Knight, I'm taking crazy pills, or I'm living in some sort of alternative reality, because it's gash. Based on the oft-adapted medieval tale of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, The Green Knight stars Dev Patel as Man with Beard, him having no discernible personality, a would-be knight and nephew to the legendary King Arthur, a mumbling Sean Harris. One Christmas, a fellow calling himself the Green Knight, and looking like a combination of Treebeard from The Lord of the Rings and the Gnome King from Return to Oz, bursts into Arthur's court and lays down some sort of challenge. Something to do with laying a stroke on him and then giving the same in return 1 year later, in exchange for his axe and the glories and or riches that go with it. I forget which, as well, they never actually seem to transpire. Man with Beard is the only person who will take up the challenge, which ends in him decapitating an unarmed man. Well, unarmed man tree thing. This is apparently a motif of medieval literature, but I will refer to it as a crime, because I happen to think chopping people's heads off while they stand there idly is a bit wrong. There's me and my precious snowflake don't kill people morality spoiling things again. Sorry. The people at the court are not similarly bothered, however, and cheer, younger man. Sorry, my whole life I've only ever heard this pronounced as Gawain, but there are pains in this film to not pronounce it like that, and it makes sense, I think, based on like kind of some Welsh stuff. It's kind of more of a Welsh sounding word. It's like Gawain, almost certainly not the Welsh pronunciation. If I try to pronounce it in my accent like they do, it sounds like I'm saying go on. Go on. As I say, the people at the court aren't bothered, and they cheer young Gawain and seem supremely unfazed when the Green Knight stands up, picks up his own head and saunters away. I can't help but feel that people in a pre-internet world, or even a post-internet world, come to that, should probably show a little more reaction to such a thing than none at all. Anyway, Gawain seems to spend the next year alternately inebriated and imbedriated, with ladies of negotiable virtue, brooding on riding north to meet the Green Knight at the next Christmas. Next Christmas comes. He rides north and meets him, then runs away, and a bunch of weird crap happens on the way. For 2 hours, though it seems like 4. Now, stories can be, and often are, allegory or metaphor or parable, but shouldn't they also be, in the first place, stories? And in any way at all interesting? Like, even a little bit? Because this very much is not that. Dev Patel, who I like a lot, is such a damp squib here, though the fault clearly lies in the writing, though whether that of the medieval tale or Lowry's script I'm unable to say, not being familiar enough with the source material, and not being able to rely on strong enough memories of Prince Valiant, which undoubtedly had the Green Knight and Sir Gawain at some point, I'm sure. The tale is supposed to demonstrate knightly virtue, chivalry and whatnot, but Man with Beard displays nothing, not once facing a challenge. He demonstrates no act of strength, no daring, no resourcefulness, no courage, no bravery, no inventiveness. He just stumbles from one event to the next while things happen around him. And at one point, he's a hallucinogenic mushroom, raising the strong possibility that 50% of the film only happened in his head. Is this really all there is? Gawain asks the Green Knight at one point, to which he replies, what else ought there to be? I don't know, but off the top of my head, a story, characters, a point. Much of this lack of anything is accompanied by infuriating overscoring and underscoring, and it does itself no favours by beginning with the silly, modified, portentously deep voices so beloved of fantasy films and sci-fi. It's well shot, I guess, but so what? It's boring rubbish with nothing to say. Oh, and it also has a post-credit scene, because of course it does. Please do not waste your time with this pish.
Yeah, I wish 50% of this film happened in someone else's head as well. I don't really have anything more to add, so I'm pretty much agreeing with you completely. It is, to be fair, a very well-produced film. Like, if this is the sort of thing that you like for some reason, then it is executed about as well as I think it probably could be. But I don't find anything in here that I particularly could latch onto or enjoy or like. Central character's a wet blanket. Anything that happens to him is sort of inexplicably weird for no reason, and the whole central premise of it is just kind of silly. And I'm like you, I'm not particularly sure what I'm supposed to be taking from this, even as an allegory. What is it for? Bravery in the sense of stupidity? I don't know. I just do not get what anything of it is trying to do. It doesn't seem to be about bravery. It doesn't seem to really be about gallantry or anything like that. It's just weird and not very interesting. Yeah, it's just dull.
It's very, very dull. Like, the biggest problem too is like the main character. He has no character.
Yeah,
he's there and things happen to him. And he's got, as a thing I've been saying a lot recently, I feel like he's got no agency really.
Yeah,
but, I mean, I could kind of got some of the point of it if it had been along the lines of like the story of Job, that that this person is beset by so many trials and all these bad things happen to him, but keeps kind of like showing faith or moving through something. But it's not that, because he wanders through a forest for a bit and nothing happens, and then he kind of wanders through the forest a bit and nothing happens, and he doesn't really have anything to do or say. But a love is not a particular hardship.
Yeah. He meets a ghost and dives for a skull and puts the skull back and then moves on with his life as though nothing particularly much of interest happened. It's like, okay, cool. Cool story, bro.
He doesn't even dive for the skull though, because like the image of his shown when he decides to do it is that he's in this impossibly deep place and stuff. But actually what happened was he put his hand in about 6 inches of water to lift out her head.
Yeah.
So he didn't actually do anything. But I am so baffled by the praise it's gotten, and again, that's why I sometimes think I'm living in an alternate reality.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's a lot like a ghost story. It was also very well reviewed at the time by a lot of critics, and it was absolute nonsense.
Yes, absolutely terrible.
Yeah, clearly not the sort of film that I apparently like, and yourself, but I'm sure there is a market for it. I'm sure there will be some people who get a lot out of this kind of slow burning to the point of nothing happening, to the point of there being no fire whatsoever, kind of thing. But yeah, it's not for me.
I can enjoy a slow burning film, or film that not a lot happens, but you still have to have something.
Yeah.
And generally, if you don't have a lot of action, you at least need to have character. This has no character.
Yeah.
And then it's got really kind of infuriating sort of mumblecore performance, particularly from Sean Harris, who's just King Arthur's basically. Shut up, speak up, you. Yeah, it's terrible. I don't know if that's meant to be like deliberately subversive styling of King Arthur, but like this legendary king. You would imagine that even as a kind of old and withered man, there would be still some sort of, not a real person obviously, but like the stories that were written with this same character, that there would still be some sort of majesty or power to this person that you think, right, there's a reason like in this world why people would follow him, why he would become famous. Like, no, it's just this weak old man who mumbles a lot for some reason.
Yeah.
There's no magic or majesty or power to this person at all. It's like, that doesn't work for that character.
Yeah.
Like, have you just deliberately tried to make King Arthur completely different for the sake of making it completely different? Like, that wasn't very clever.
Let us not go to Camelot. It is a silly place.
Yeah, so unfortunately, very, very, very disappointing film.